Alrighty, guys, welcome to the newest episode of the Cabalcast. And this week, a little bit of a change of
hmm
our classic roles, so a little role reversal here. So, you worked Collect-A-Con Edison, and I
Yes.
have questions for you because I was not there for
Yes.
other reasons.
That is fair.
So, with that, let's get it taken away.
Yep. So Collect-A-Con Edison was my first Collect-A-Con as either a vendor or a patron, and it will be the first of two Collect-A-Cons that I will work this year. I will be working the next Collect-A-Con in Edison in November. And I haven't quite looked at the schedule yet, but from everything you told me ahead of time, it sounds like it should repeat.
Yep.
And I'm sure, based on the questions that you have given me, we will touch on a lot of that in this episode, so I don't really want to spoil anything just yet. Um, Overall, it was in state, so it was a quick travel day for me on Friday. And then on Sunday, the event ended like we would expect an anime show to. And I was able to eat dinner and then drive home.
Drive
It was a
home.
pretty concise event. And I knew they were 2 day events, but it felt weird being at a 2 day event instead of a 3 or a 4 day
Three or
event.
four or five, yeah.
Yeah, I will say that it is very unfamiliar feeling.
Yeah, so I guess, yeah, in light of that, my first question was, how did it feel? Does it, it does feel different because it is a 2-day event.
Yep.
Does it feel better to you as a 2-day event, or were you like, man, I wish this had been three?
So based on the location,
Hmm.
i.e., in Edison, New Jersey, which is where one of, or if not several of the first Magic the Gathering Grand Prix were held,
Yeah.
where the Edison format of Yu-Gi-Oh was born.
Yep.
I wanted this to go another day or two because there aren't a lot of Collect-A-Cons in the Mid-Atlantic region or up into New England. And
Yeah.
so there was a large base of people that could be served by having had an extra day on there. It would have allowed people from further up in New York State, or as I mentioned, New England, to come down to that Collect-A-Con, or maybe up from the Delaware, Maryland, Virginia, the DMV area a little more and serve them, despite the fact that there is going to be one in Charlotte, I think.
Yeah. Charlotte is now actually
Yeah,
this
there you go.
weekend.
Right. So it gives those people an option to go to one, the other, or both. And in that regard, another day would have been good, I think, overall for this particular Collect-A-Con. I imagine LA would probably and Atlanta could feel similar, maybe even Chicago or Indy.
Yeah.
But I think there are a lot of Collect-A-Cons that might not feel that way.
So I guess to kind of piggyback on that, what do you think? You mentioned this was seemed like kind of unique due to the region.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think made it different of just being a Collect-A-Con compared to like a Grand Prix or Mythic Fest? You vended those before,
Yes.
or like a Gen Con or something like that.
Yep.
What to you set this apart compared to what I've been saying when we've been doing these
Okay.
Q&As after the events?
So there are two things. Sorry, there are two things. There are two ways I want to look at this. There is the vendor things that were unique, and then
Hmm.
the patron things that were unique. From the
How was the
patron,
concert?
um, okay, I will get to that. You prepared me for several shows,
Yeah.
and from the patron standpoint, the idea of a main stage is probably one of the most unique because when it comes to an anime con or something like this, you prepare more for panels and
Yeah.
maybe a main stage like you see or we saw at Magic Fests prior to lockdown. You
Yeah.
would have
Yeah, they had
panels,
like the commander panels and stuff like that.
yeah, on the main stage. Um, this one just had a main stage, and I'll talk about what happened there in a little bit from the vendor perspective because that's where it was really impactful. This Collect-A-Con Edison was in one singular room, which was unique for me as well. Artists, vendors, the like snack bar,
Yeah.
Admiral snack bar, all
The
in,
voice talent signers.
yes, all in the same room. That was pretty unique for me. Despite the fact that a place like Anime Expo might have a lot of that in the vendor room, that's because people chose to be in the vendor room, not because it was a singular room event.
Yep.
So that was kind of unique from a patron standpoint. You could leave your friends at the voice talent line and then go graze booths in an alleyway, so like straight down, and still see your friends in that line, as opposed to like the
Yep.
streets, which would be cross section. And I'm using like anime con terms. I don't think Collect-A-Con calls them Avs and streets.
Nope.
And that was unique from a patron standpoint. The vendor mix, I think, was kind of bog standard from a patron standpoint. Everybody was there to sell you effectively one thing, and that was Pokemon.
Yep.
But then you also had the armorer, who sold like leather bits. Yeah, exactly. The leather daddy booth. And you had the armorer that sold foam weapons. Right? That kind of stuff. And you had some video game vendors there as well. Maybe like, it's not Canal Street Games, but whatever in New York City that go to some of these in this region. So from a patron perspective, I think that was pretty standard. I don't really think there was a whole lot of stand out from a patron perspective. There was a VIP access that really only got you in about half an hour before Gen Pop. So vendors could only be in the room at 8, no earlier. So we were in the room at 8. We were facing cases at a couple of minutes later when we got to the booth. And then we had VIPs walking around, other vendors walking around and grazing from 8:30 to 9. That's all kind of part and parcel. I didn't see any media badges, which sometimes can be common at anime cons. And I think from a patron standpoint, if I were going to review the price of my badge compared to the access I got, depending on how much a vendor badge costs, I might actually begin to weigh a VIP badge versus a vendor badge. Because a vendor badge gets you in an extra 30 minutes on top of that. But if the price isn't that much,
$40.
Yeah. Then why not get the vendor badge? Because it felt like there were a lot of people that had vendor badges that weren't actually vending on-prem.
Yep. There's the one thing I will say about this, there is so much backpacking between vendors going on at these events that for me is continually a culture shock.
Yes.
I don't ever remember it even being this bad in Magic. Like way back in the day when we were using, Magic Online Traders League. This Collect-A-Con itself, and sorry to kind of hijack it, it's so like backpacky.
Yep.
Almost.
I'm not going to name names, but I could see vendors that I knew buying and selling with a vendor badge that didn't have booths at the event. They would just stroll in whenever they wanted, hours after the doors open, and leave. But if they wanted to get in early, it gave them the opportunity to. Right? Yeah. So that would be something I would consider if I was a patron and I had the VIP badge, is just what does that get me compared to the vendor, and why wouldn't I get the vendor badge if I wanted even earlier access to the room? Right? So from a patron standpoint, I think that was kind of wild. Or sorry, the difference. The concerts were, as a patron, I would come to expect, but not during the day like they were. Usually those happen at night as an after event. Like when you look at PAX or Anime Boston.
2:00 in the afternoon.
Correct. As a vendor, and we're going to cut over that section now, that was wild.
Yeah.
We were, the room we were in, it was rectangular, and we were on the long side of that, and the main stage was literally opposite us on the long side. You entered on one of the short sides. And so when the voice talent that did the original Pokemon theme had his set on Saturday and Sunday, we got that full blast direct out to the booth. When Waka Flocka Flame performed for 45 minutes or whatever it was, we got all that bass at the back of the room, and I couldn't hear anything. I had to climb over the booth to hear people.
And no business was done.
You are correct.
Yeah.
It was very difficult to do anything. Even the patrons even had problems talking to us. Yeah. The bass was just so loud because bass carries, and we were, like I said, almost directly across from that main stage. So having that main stage as a vendor right there was just wild because of how much chaos it sowed for the couple hours they had anything going. That was just wild.
Yeah.
Also,
it's actually the only show I have ever done where I have told someone,
"Yep,
I'm not going to be able to hear you for the next 10 minutes. You should go somewhere else."
Yeah. Just go to any other booth that's 50 feet that way or 50 feet that way because you're going to be able to hear them.
Hear significantly better.
Yep.
Yep.
The facing of our cases was also wild to me as a vendor because we had high-end cases and our non-high-end, and they were in the front of the booth on the the 3 8-foot tables that we had, but the rest of the booth was lined with regular acrylic cases that had our regular Pokemon cards in that ranged from anywhere from $3 to $100. These were not in the high-end cases. The slabs were in the high-end cases. The Magic that we brought was in the high-end cases. A lot of the Yu-Gi-Oh! That we started with, like the whole 2 cards, were in the high-end cases because it was a first ed Blue Eyes kind of thing.
Yep.
Right? That was in our high-end case. I'm not quite used to that. When we had, before we had the first Zendikar Shock Fetchland reprint, those would be in your high-end cases because they were all like $100 some odd or close to it. Those exist there. So that was kind of a wild change for me as a vendor. One of the other things that was wild was how everybody seemingly wanted to haggle price.
That was my next question.
Yep, I had my number and of what I could vary on, and that was given to me by the show lead. Yep. And I knew that I didn't have to ask the show lead, but if the sale was large enough, I would wiggle because I am there as sales to empower the buyers. And if we're out of money because I said, no, sir, on a couple more percent on a 4 or 5 digit buy, then that's my fault that we're out of money to buy with. I could have made that sale. We would not have lost that much. There were some items, regardless, that I did have to go to our show lead on and say, like, hey, do we have any wiggle room on here? And that was generally the slabs. Yeah. Because I don't know what goes into those. Those change all the time. We comped them on Friday.
What was graded raw? What was purchase graded?
Yep. We comped everything on Friday. We recomped some things Saturday morning. And then we recomped again on Sunday morning. And like that wasn't wild to me. I'm used to repricing.
Yeah.
One of the things that I found funny, but not wild as a vendor, is anybody who came up with a CGC slab, no thank you. Auto pass.
Well, you heard about it, right?
Yes, we talked about it on the show.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Right. We no-sir'd. Not a problem. Easy peasy.
And everyone expects it now, which is nice. Yep. They're not like offended.
Yep. The one thing that I also found wild in regards to the haggling was that, and this is kind of a twofold thing, a lot of the Pokemon players were looking for raw cards that they thought could slab a 10. They were trying to find the diamond in the rough that would slab a 10. And sure, more credit to them, but they don't know that our business model is literally, if it's going to slab a 10, we've already sent it in. And so what I noticed was like people were like, they found the cards that they wanted, but they needed it at that possible 10. Or maybe some other reason to not buy it, and it almost felt like they could kind of make up a reason to not buy it that wasn't necessarily like centers off. They would concoct a reason seemingly in their head after looking at it for a while to not buy it. Somebody had a Gen Mint or a 10. Yeah, they had a 10 in their hands. It was the slab they wanted at the grade they wanted. They hemmed and hawed, like looked at it disconcertingly as if they thought maybe they could reslab it for a Gem Mint and eventually put it back. That's the only thing I could come up with was they concocted a reason in their head that they didn't want it. They found the card they wanted at the grade they wanted at a price point that they were happy with, and eventually they just shoved on it. That was also wild to me. There was a lot of vendor-to-vendor interaction that happened before hours, which wasn't wild. It was the sheer amount of haggling that people would try to do as vendors that was even worse than the patrons.
Yep.
That's
how many people got hit with the "Can I buy your booth for 80%?"
We had 2 people basically do that, but they wanted all the WotC era Pokemon.
Yeah.
And you know what? One of them, like the first one, I think realized how much WotC era we had and that they couldn't afford all of it. So they just went down the one of these, right?
This one.
Yep.
Yeah, sure.
Yep. Then some other guy kind of to start that process. He started with, "Are you willing to deal? Because I love everything that's here."
Yeah.
Yes, we are. And then he just every case, like, how many of these? Stop asking that. All of them.
Yeah.
Like that person effectively wanted to like buy out the booth. And this is the last thing I'm going to have for what was different about it is that not the people that were haggling prices on a small number of products or on one large product, but the people that wanted to buy a lot of product from us at a larger discount than my show lead said was acceptable at the beginning of the event. We were pretty sure we're there to break product and give away what they bought from the booth as thank yous for buying in. One of the
Yeah.
people with a vendor badge there, our show lead absolutely knew was somebody from Whatnot that was breaking and there with a vendor badge to basically buy things at a discount to give away on stream. I don't have that knowledge. I've never had that experience. So that was kind of wild to me
Yeah.
overall. And this like dovetails into the next question that we had of like, what experiences were unique to Collect-A-Con? The concerts, which I mentioned, like in the
Yeah.
middle of the day, and that, like the breaking,
Yeah.
right? People that were there to just buy products to give away. Those were two of the things that were absolutely wild from an experience standpoint. On Saturday, I think it was Saturday, all of a sudden from the main stage, the drums got really loud and nobody realized it for a while until Chop Suey by System of a Down started playing. And then we realized there was a guy on stage playing an electronic drum kit. And he
Yep.
drummed for the Pokemon set and the Waka Flocka Flame set.
Mm-hmm.
Just this dude with his shirt off on stage, just going at it.
Yeah.
Wild experience. And another experience that I found unique, and I'll reference this again towards the end of the episode, wasn't getting breakfast before the event and eating it in the car while we were waiting for the doors to open. It was setting up the booth, going to the bathroom, and recognizing how much a cold toilet seat at a con is something is such a rarity.
It's one of, and I will die on this hill, the most important thing to know at any con: where are the good bathrooms?
Yes, the bathroom.
Most important thing.
Yeah, the bathrooms that were in eyesight were pretty decent, but it wasn't until I was using the restroom after breakfast where I was just like, you know what, I'm the first one in this stall, and this cold toilet seat tells me so, and that was honestly very refreshing. Odd, but refreshing. Like otherwise, outside of that, all the experiences were the same. We had like bulk slabs, like you would have bulk rares, but they were CGC slabs because you can't really keep those things anymore. So you'll bulk them out to people based on, oh, I like this Pokemon, let me buy a cheap slab.
Yep,
kind of thing.
I like Jolteon. Here's a $30 Jolteon. I'll take it.
Yep, and I think the last unique experience that I had was at a Magic Fest. You're there to sell magic. It could be singles, it could be sealed paraphernalia, etc. When you're at a Collect-A-Con and you read the tagline of what a Collect-A-Con is, it's trading cards, it's sports, it's all this other stuff. 2 people asked us if we carried sports on the entire weekend.
Yep.
No, we do not. I don't think anybody in the room had sports cards. And when you go to a Magic Fest, if you are a vendor with experience, you know what a chopped booth looks like. We've discussed it on this channel.
Oh, yeah.
At Collect-A-Con, they don't encourage chops. What you can do is buy like a face of a booth on an island.
Yeah.
So you can have 4 different vendors in one square.
Yeah, they allow for it rather than like, oh, hide it. It's just, no, you can just chop through us instead.
Yep.
Which, yeah, that is so unique because can you imagine a quarter booth at like a Star City? What would happen?
Yeah, that'd be crazy. I've seen half islands before, split that way. We've talked about it before. And I don't think this is a unique experience because we're used to the center booths being so large at a Star City, like when you buy into the main thoroughfare. But at a Collect-A-Con, if you buy 2 side-by-side booths, you can combine them. They give you the opportunity to. There were 2 like mega booths by the voiceover talents that were facing each other. Like that was kind of it for wild experiences or just things that were like different enough to note.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's it's always interesting to see how these events handle the logistical stuff differently as far as like chops and stuff like
Yep.
go because it is, I mean, everybody knows it happens. And it's interesting because it was, you'll walk by those quarter islands and you'll see people literally 5 feet away from where they just were and say, hey, they had it for $20 less right there.
Yep.
And like that's insane to me.
Yep.
I guess to back on, haggling, I have also had an experience where haggling is just everywhere at
Mhm.
Collect-A-Cons. Why do you think that is?
So
Because I have my thoughts and I'm curious what yours are.
for me, I think it's different. The people that went across the booth and want like, I want this and this and this and this and this. We were
Yeah.
pretty sure they were there to like give away to break
Mm.
because it's like they weren't just like, oh, this random card and this random card and this random card. One person wanted all the like a little bit of all the WotC era stuff.
Yeah, like give me a bunch of, Umbreons, Glaceons, Espeons, like
Yep.
all the WotC good, not even like that high-end chase, but like the chase Pokemon themselves.
Yep.
Your Snorlaxes, Pikachus, that kind of stuff.
Yep. And we are pretty sure that person was breaking. The
Okay.
other person that went through the booth, they started out with a trend and then just kind of went off the rails and just seemingly started moving into just stuff I like. And again, that looked like a breaker because of just the sheer breadth of cards they looked at, but they only wanted foils. Whereas with the WotC era person, obviously you can't get everything in foil. It's just how that worked.
Yeah.
A base B drill only comes in non-foil, for instance, Electabuzz, etc. So that other person was looking for that. The people that wanted to buy a small number of cards raw that wanted to haggle wanted to feel like they won against a vendor, which we had kind of talked about. And most of those people were doing something that nobody at the booth could define, which is like looking for the cheapest version of the closest 10 that they could get raw for their binder. Like the binder collection is what
Yep.
people kept calling it. And
Yeah.
nobody at the booth could really define what that was when I asked. And one person actually was going the other direction. Our show lead loves graded ones. Went around the show on Sunday and bought all the ones that he could find, all the graded Pokemon that were ones. There was somebody else who did the same thing. They wanted like their binder collection was just damaged cards, so they were just looking for raw damaged cards. And those people, I think, wanted to win the fight against a vendor.
Yeah.
And then
There actually is a lot of that I've found. It's a lot of like the sports card element of I just want to feel like I got a deal.
yeah,
But there's a lot more greed in it than there is in sports because it's, sports like if I get $50 off, like cool, I made a deal. Sure, fine. And they're looking at Collect-A-Cons, I've got a card for 1,200. I'm going to give you 700 for it. Cool. Can I give you 700 for yours? Like that. And it seems like they want to beat a vendor almost.
yep. And then the last group of people is just the vendors. They might have had the vendor badge and they might not, but no matter what, they were there either buying cards for themselves that were going to go in their booths or go back to the store, or they were there effectively on consignment for somebody else. And so here's the list of cards that I want in these grades because the vendors were really only looking for slabs. And this is like the best price I am looking for. Anything else, if it goes over, you got to call me. If it's under, bet.
Yeah, exactly.
And so that's kind of what I noticed about the haggling was that it really just kind of fell into one of those three camps. That was it. And it's just something that we're not really used to from a Magic perspective. Like you'll see it with people who comb the binders, like, hey, can I get this $12 of cards for 10? And the answer to that is yes, because I don't want to hand you like 5 and 3 ones, and you don't want to hand me a 10 and 2 singles. Like we'll just deal at the 10 because it's a singular bill and it's easy. It's not like a fight over that. Or like, hey, I'm spending 4 digits with you. What can you knock off, right? That's fine too, because that's what I mentioned earlier, which is just as sales, we're then there to empower buys, and that's a large enough number where it's like, okay, yeah, we can do something.
This is worth something, yeah. Like we're making enough here.
Yeah, because we're going to churn this money, right? It's going to be wicked easy. So that's why I think the haggling thing was there all along. There were some people that were there tagging on the sales side of things, but it was actually more to ensure that they could get rid of their product.
Yeah.
At but I'm going to give you a really specific. Yes, but I'm going to give you a really specific example. The standard haggle at sales is whatever, right? We're used to that. Getting rid of a product that is very niche, however, doesn't happen all the time. And so that's the kind of haggling that I saw this time, that I've never seen a patron be able to play vendors against one another. And that's because this person had 3 different uncut sheets of Pokemon. They had the base set Machamp, unlimited, so no shadowless, right? So the entire sheet is just first sets.
Yeah.
They had the entire foil sheet from Fossil.
Yeah.
Fossil and they
foil,
had,
and I forget what the third.
They had it was the base set starter deck foils in Chinese, but the sheet was water damaged.
Yeah.
Now these weren't rolled. They were professionally matted and framed.
Yep.
So this person had a hand cart that they were using to show these around, and I watched them shop 2 different vendors down the way. They shopped us, and I think they shopped another vendor on the floor who was just there doing business.
Yeah.
And this is the first time I've been able to see, like, because these products are so large, it's difficult to do it at the booth at a sales seat.
Yeah.
Them actively play like 4 vendors in the span of about 100 feet of each other against each other. I don't know what the final numbers were, but I know we rolled out of there literally with the Machamp and the Fossil foils.
Yep. Didn't know what to pay on the Chinese ones.
Because the water damage, that was part of the wrinkle on it. Yeah, and then you have to find somebody who wants the
Chinese sheet. Yeah.
And one of the things I heard all weekend is how cool the Chinese promos are getting, and how China's getting just some of the coolest and dopest stuff for Pokemon right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was kind of just a passing thing that I heard throughout the week. Yeah. But that was kind of like the haggling stuff that I'd seen throughout the weekend. We didn't do a whole lot of the big vendor-to-vendor interactions like we've talked about before. On Sunday of a GP, a vendor will come up with a 4 or a 5 row, and they're just like, this
Doesn't
is a quarter
lane.
Right. Where they've priced everything down for another vendor to take. There wasn't a lot of that kind of arbitrage or a wash. Archoli did move some of our highest high-end while he was walking. We got rid of the first edition base set Charizard. We were taxed while he was gone to pull it from the case.
Yep.
So like we that kind of thing happened, but not, like I said, the walking a 5 row around the room. Mm-hmm. And with the
no
pre-haggled
boxing.
Yeah, exactly. With the pre-haggled price already in spot, like bought all these for 50 cents, can't take them all home, buy them
10 cents each for yours.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, whatever. Get them out. That's kind of where the haggling was all weekend.
So I have one final question then.
Yes.
What was the best or most unique anecdote from the weekend?
Okay, so the answer I want to give is the toilet seat, where you just don't appreciate. You don't until you have it. You don't know what you're missing with a cold toilet seat.
That is such a like sacred vendor thing, though. Of like, oh my god, this is. It's like a moment of peace, almost. Like you're just zen.
Yeah,
whenever you get that.
Yep, it was just like me, another vendor, and the guy who was like finishing cleaning up the floor in the bathroom. And it was just like, that was absolutely like fantastic. Other than that, there are definitely some inside jokes that came out of this event, and I don't think I can really relay them to the podcast audience well.
That's fair.
But I'm hoping that in November, when we're back, the person that spawned a lot of this conversation is there, so that we can continue to have an interesting and worthwhile engagement.
For sure.
That's a story best told for inside our Patreon, for what it's worth. Yeah. It'll be a lot easier for me to write it up in text than attempts to intimate the fine details of this like 15-minute interaction.
Yeah, but definitely best kept there.
Yeah, but other than that, to kind of like put a bow around this, would definitely recommend at least going to a Collect-A-Con if you are thinking about it. With the regular badge versus the VIP badge is like 30 minutes worth of whatever. I saw Gen Pop line up for what looked like miles, like wrapping around the building. Or when I heard that in the previous Edison, the line folded upon itself some umpteen number of times.
Yeah.
So is that 30 minutes ahead of doors worth it? No. Is getting there for doors worth it? Also probably not, because I don't think there are many Collect-A-Con exclusives that are going to sell out that quickly, or if there are any at all.
No, there aren't.
So just getting there when you wanna is
Pretty
the
good.
way to go. Yeah, absolutely. And from what I've been hearing, these are basically Pokemon only events. That's really what you're gonna find there. You will find some Magic, some Yu-Gi-Oh. We sold a limited amount of both of those. I can't recall. I don't think anybody anybody asked for One Piece. I don't think we had any asks about that. We had no asks about Gundam, and no asks about Flesh and Blood. So that's the kind of event you're walking into, at least when it comes to Edison. But based on the conversations I had with the other employees at the booth, it seems like that's kind of the trending norm, is that these are becoming dedicated Pokemon shows, because it seems like there are no other dedicated Pokemon shows. You have locals, you have states, nats, regionals. I think there's that echelon of tournaments, but there's no like patron-friendly events.
Not like that anyways.
Yeah. So that's going to be kind of my parting words of wisdom here, is if there's a Collect-A-Con in your area and you would think that it would serve you to go to this as a patron to see what's there, maybe you want to catch a Waka Flocka Flame concert for cheap, by all means, do that. It is a fantastic place to shop your Pokemon to sell. If you were thinking about going to a Collect-A-Con, it's several months in advance, and you think you can slab a lot of what you have, anything that comes back graded like a 9 or better is going to sell really easily. Everything else will sell, but it's going to be at a reduced rate, because slabs for Pokemon aren't case candy. They're the standard now.
Yep.
And it behooves you to do a lot of this legwork for yourself ahead of time.
Yep.
I think that kind of covers all the notes that I took down. There are some things about like the unique product that we have that I don't think will be relevant in the future, because the next unique product is going to take its place.
Yeah.
So I think it's just churning interest like you see in Pokemon. Like, oh, that's the old cool Eevee. I want the new cool Eevee, for instance. So the Unagabe Eeveelutions and a Pikachu.
Yeah.
They were like not the hot thing at the event. They'd started to cool. But we had an entire graded set of the Unagabe stuff, and somebody asked a good question. Are the numbers on them continuous? Sequential.
Yep.
That's a thing, I guess.
They love it.
It's like you're robbing a bank.
Yeah.
Non-sequential bills, please.
Yep. Pretty much. There is actually, though, it's wild, though, because theirs is a premium for having the sequential set.
Yeah.
And it's wild because I've never seen that outside of the Pokemon market.
Yep. That's the first, like I said, the only time I've heard of sequential being relevant is in, like, when you watch a show or a movie and somebody's robbing a bank and they're like non-sequential bills.
Yep.
Like,
exactly.
That's it. What a dude with a vendor badge who we knew was a whatnot person asked the question, and it kind of broke my mind. But that's something that you can do ahead of time to prep yourself for this. If you have a run of cards and you're going to grade them and you think they're going to grade well, if you can get them sequentially graded, that has the opportunity to increase the buy price on them, on the entire lot, which is kind of unique.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm just kind of at a loss for words for what else to say about Collect-A-Con. There's just a lot of things going on.
We'll do again is the TLDR.
Exactly. Right? I will do again, and we'll probably cover it again.
We'll do again. Yeah.
In November, because between now and then, there's a bunch of Magic sets. We have not just Final Fantasy, which had just come out like the week before, but I've got to check the timing on it. We might have the Avatar set
Yeah.
which could bring interest from people at a Collect-A-Con, especially if the voice talent shows up, because insofar as
True.
America is concerned, that is a hugely popular, quote, anime, unquote. So there's the opportunity that we will actually see more demand for Magic products. There wasn't a whole lot of demand for cards or product that was representative of the VO talent because there just wasn't a lot of it. The voice of Vegeta was there. I'm pretty sure it's Vegeta.
Yeah.
The English voice of Vegeta was there. Nobody asked for Dragon Ball Super or anything. Like, a Dragon Ball has like 2 or 3 different card games.
Yeah, there's plenty of opportunity there. Like,
Yeah.
that's one that has always been crazy to me because he's at a lot of them. And it's just not something that you could ask for. But there's a ton of people that walk by with DBZ autos.
Yep.
So, yeah.
RK Post is at every Magic event, and if you don't have at least one avatar of WoW on you with the RK Post art, you're going to miss at least one sale because of that. Somebody's just like, oh yeah, he's here, he did that, I need it. Nobody was looking for Vegetas. So, I like, there's some wild things that are just interesting in regards to Collect-A-Cons that, like, I have a lot more to say. They're not really relevant for the episode. A ton of notes. So again, this is just something else to talk about. Yeah, in the free Discord, and then again when we go over it in December, because I have all my notes from July. If things don't align with November, then like, yeah, we have more to talk about because the context of this event shifted in a quarter of a year, and that's relevant to know for anybody that works or wants to attend a Collect-A-Con. So it's going to be wicked interesting to see what happens.
For sure.
But anything else before we cut out?
No, I think that does it.
All right. So for at MtG Cabalcast on Twitter, Facebook, Patreon, and YouTube, I am at Halt, I am Reptar. You are
at Damon_Thurston.
And we'll see you in 2 weeks.